5 things you shouldn't cheap out on your next cruise. So first thing is travel insurance. You have to get it. You have to get it. So much happens when you travel. So much has the potential to happen, especially for international travel. You just have to get the travel insurance. You know, that's just what it is. Now, some companies, depending on, or agencies who you book through, may have a travel insurance or a plan that comes with it. Get the breakdown for that plan to decide if it's going to be comprehensive enough to be able to support you. God forbid something were to happen. Now, an example, I did have a family member die on a cruise. Hello. So again, the back end of it, of all of how it got sorted and worked out, I couldn't even begin to tell you, right? But keep that in mind. That can happen. That can happen, right? Now, does that happen often? I don't know, but it can happen, and it has happened. So that's one of those things you definitely want to make sure you have travel insurance to be able to make those arrangements via, the cruise port, maybe back to home. For most people, they do have to travel to get to and from where the cruise port is going to be leaving from, and it doesn't come back to your hometown. So if you got something coming to your hometown, you got a good spot. But aside from that, if you're not in Florida, right, and you're somewhere else, you're going to have to travel again. So having travel insurance is going to be a non-negotiable. Now, something else to consider with travel insurance is going to be, of course, the healthcare, as well as maybe what your own healthcare plan or provider covers. Now, I know previously I did have an insurance, provider that covers certain things internationally. So it was basically you would have to put in, the city, the town where you were, and they would say, hey, go to locations here, here, here. They're going to be considered what's considered in-network, and then you'll get same or similarly situated coverages, so you wouldn't have to pay, something crazy out of pocket. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, something else I did have on a previous cruise was an individual or a passenger on the cruise had to be airlifted out via Coast Guard. It was the first time I'd ever seen that in kind of situation, and been in that kind of situation or circumstance. I can say the crew did a phenomenal job kind of keeping everybody in the loop, of course, because when the helicopter was going to come to land or come to getting very, very close to the ship, everything was going to be kind of windy, disoriented. We were, of course, at sea. It was a sea day, and they did clear the decks. So they cleared the decks. They required that everyone come in. They did have their staff go out. They were dressed appropriately, and then pretty much the chopper came down. They airlifted the individual that needed the immediate medical attention, and then they went on their way. Now, be that as it may, people were doing different things. There were people that were praying. We pray that the individual is okay. It's my understanding that they had. I did hear from a family member. Actually, when I was at the Lido, minding my business, it came out, I guess, that the passenger had, slip and fell and maybe dislocated a hip or something to that effect. And it was actually the night before we were supposed to go back to port. So it was kind of like, were they able to maybe maintain or, help that individual, through the night until they could go back to port and get on the ship. And unfortunately, that just really wasn't the situation. So I did hear that piece of it. And as passengers were there, some people were videotaping, some people were praying for the person, different things were going on. But there was a lot of chatter, of course, at the Lido about the cost. And I thought that was an interesting perspective, given that, it didn't really, I don't want to say it didn't really affect other people. Of course, if you're in the family, you want to keep the family in prayer, during that difficult situation in their time, hoping everybody's okay. But several people talked about costs, and I thought that was interesting. How much is the helicopter like that cost? Hopefully they got the travel insurance. But even if you get it, you use it, you still gotta pay something. How much do you have to pay? And I was like, eating their mind in my business, but I was listening. I was listening to what people were talking about. So that is definitely something you don't want to mess around with. You don't want to cheap out on. Next one is going to be the cruise package photos. So here you definitely want to tap into the pre-cruise savings. Pre-cruise savings here, you can definitely save 20%, 30%, even 40% I've seen on certain both dining options and for package options. Get it. Get it. If you get the package option, let's say, and it's 15% off, and then the following week it's 40% off, you can repurchase that photo package or whatever the package is that you purchased, and then cancel the other one and get the discount. You can do that too. So I would say definitely waiting till you get onto the ship and to do it. Typically, you're going to probably want to cheap out on it. You're going to only maybe want to get a package that has maybe 10 photos or only 20 photos on there, when the truth of the matter is you want the 100 photos that you actually took on the ship. Took on the cruise, right? So between the cruise and the port of calls, usually take pictures at the port of calls too. Go in, do it, do the pre-cruise savings for your photo packages. Don't cheap out on it. These are your memories that you do want to have, and it's not something you want to have just in the moment. It's something that you want to have to be able to share with your kids and your grandkids, especially as you continue to travel through the years. Now, tap it into photo packages as well. Another one that is a very, very pricey package is professional photos. This is separate from the traditional photo packages. But if you do go onto the cruise ship and decide you want to get professional photos, that is a very, very pricey bill. So if you can do pre-cruise savings, you'll pay maybe half. I have seen a 40% half, off that package. So something to keep in mind. Your excursions. Now with excursions, same thing. So depending on where you're going, I know when I just came back from Alaska, when we were in Alaska, they did have limited spots available for certain excursions. And pretty much it wasn't even about getting a good price at that point in time, because you were going to have to pay the full ride, but it was more about getting a seat. So many were already full, and definitely, that is a destination where many people will go maybe once in their life. So when they go, they want to experience it to the fullest extent, and things fill up quickly. So that's another area where you want to pre-book for your excursion. Same thing, and if you get the photo package, you'll be able to capture your memories. I'm Anisha Kier. You're watching Travel Tips by Kier. I'm a former airport employee, world traveler, here to give you all those tips and tricks, especially the ones that those big companies just don't want you to know. If that's something you're interested in, make sure you subscribe, hit that bell notification so you're notified when I have a future upload. 4, weather appropriate attire. Now this is a doozy because depending on where you go, most people are going to travel to a climate that's not necessarily similarly situated to somewhere where they're from. So like here in New England, we do get, rainy weather. We also get negative temperature weather. So yes, of course, when I went out to Alaska, I did have certain things that would of course work, footwear, outerwear, but I still went and picked up stuff. I was that person, yes. I wanted to make sure I had, the rain gear. I wanted to make sure I had something that was going to be, lightweight, something that was going to be appropriate to travel, something that was going to, pack well, that was going to travel well in my luggage. I did all the things. I wanted to make sure I was prepared. I preferred to be over-prepared than under-prepared and kind of end up in a situation where it makes you uncomfortable, like going out on an excursion, not having the appropriate footwear or attire, and then it rains and you're soaked. Now it's a miserable day. So the appropriate attire is key. And the last thing I'll say is your luggage and your suitcase items. So with the luggage and your items, I don't know. Maybe it's the former airport employee part in me I've seen it. I've definitely seen it where the bags come back and it's pretty much duct taped and that's all they could do. That was the best that they could do. The tricky part about suitcase, depending on where you're going, that 1, may not have suitcase options available, or 2, the most common issue ends up being that they don't have a suitcase to be able to accommodate the size that you need. So in that scenario, you probably end up having to get 2 smaller bags, maybe even 3, to be able to accommodate your stuff. Or of course, the other option would be to put the stuff in a box and ship it back home. That's the thing. I have seen people do that too. That's a thing. But that's not really convenient. It's not typically what people want to do. So that is something to keep in mind. Go invest a little bit more. Make sure you get you a good suitcase, from a reputable or decent company, especially if you're going to be flying. Suitcases do get banged up quite a bit, so do your due diligence. Definitely let me know in the comment section below, what did I miss? 5 days definitely you shouldn't cheap out on for your next cruise. And I will see you folks on the next one. Bye.